Welcome to the Lotco Business Podcast, a show all about helping you as a retailer, brand or creative understand the actual business side of running your business. I offer straightforward practical advice about the nitty-gritty of making money from your creative passion. We will be covering bite-sized business and marketing lessons as well as interviews with experts and trailblazers in the fashion, homewares and design industries. My name is Melissa Robbins. I'm a business coach, colour-loving, non-coffee drinking Melburnian. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I'm super excited to have a special guest today, Nareen Holloway from Marmoset Found, who is a homewares company who have been around for a little over 12 years. And Nareen and I have known each other for quite a long time, and I've been trying to get her on the podcast for a while. So thank you so much for joining me today, Nareen.
It's a pleasure.
I am dying for, the conversations to unfold, because obviously we do catch up a little bit and we do have business conversations quite regularly. So I've often said we should just be recording this as we're walking.
I
or
know,
whatever.
yes.
So today, hopefully we get to dive into lots of things that we, discuss anyway and can share with everyone else as well.
Sounds good.
So can you tell me a little bit about what is Marmoset Found, just to, dive into who you are?
So we are a homewares brand. People mostly know us for our ceramics, our tableware and vases. We also do glassware and have in the past done wall hangings and other ornamental pieces. I guess how we like to describe the brand is that we make pieces for longevity. So we're not about, we do bring out new pieces seasonally, new colours, new shapes, but they're very considered. We want people to invest in our pieces and keep them for a very long time, add to them, pass them on to other family members. So I guess in essence, that's what we're trying to create.
And so how did you actually get started? Like, what was the catalyst for getting going in the first place?
Yes, so I, in a previous lifetime, worked for Stussy, streetwear brand, and I managed their retail stores, but I sat next to the production girl and I would overhear her having lots of conversations with all the different manufacturers around the world, and it was quite fascinating to me. So I thought, wouldn't that be great to be able to manufacture offshore but do it in a really sustainable, ethical, valuable way? So I went back to uni, studied a Masters of International Development and learned all the skills about doing business in those developing countries, but doing it in a really fair and ethical way. And so once I finished, I had little children at the time, so that took quite a long time to do that. And then I wasn't really interested in going to fashion, even though that's where most of my previous work experience has been. I saw a bit of a gap in the market. There was a lot of, I'd say like fast fashion homewares, and there was a lot of really high-end homewares, but there was a bit of a gap for things that were beautiful, really well made, but more affordable. And so it was sort of a marriage of my, new education and what I saw was missing from the market. And that's how it was born.
And you obviously you had the travel thing in there too. Like, that was one of the things you wanted to do more of,
Absolutely.
right, as well?
It was very difficult when I had 3 young children because there was a lot of travel initially, less so now. But when I was trying to find manufacturers that I could work with, there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of meeting people and thinking, can I work with this person and this family long term? So there was a lot of travel. I loved it, but it wasn't especially glamorous. We stayed in some pretty divey, dingy places. Nowadays I've upgraded a little bit, but it was quite hard going.
Yeah. And so how did you go about that first process, like finding your manufacturers? Were you were literally on the ground, like searching and sourcing?
Well, before I was on the ground, I was on the internet searching. And that was often with a little baby, breastfeeding, tapping away. So a lot of research. I would say, a couple of years actually of doing all that groundwork. And then, yes, Went to lots of different countries, went to India, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, maybe more that I'm not thinking of right now, but really exploring how business is done in all those different countries and looking at the products I wanted to make and which country and manufacturer would be best suited. So there was a lot of research before we even put in our very first order.
And with that, like, did you start off with, you know, what the factory had, or did you start custom?
I'd say probably a bit. We would look at what their offerings, and we might tweak it a little bit to make it more unique. Nowadays, we do everything from scratch for a lot of reasons, but that has evolved over time, yes.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, like, because you can start off not having, well, actually, what were some of your first minimum orders, like in terms of volume of each piece?
Tiny. They were probably, I think, 100 units per piece. And I remember our very first ceramics order, it was 500 pieces in total. So there was 5 items, 100 of each. Nowadays, if I tried to order that, though, they would probably not even read that order. But back then, we were able to do that. And that very first order, I am still working with them today. And we sort of took a chance on each other. They are a family business. That first order was with the grandparents, and we're now dealing with the grandchildren of that same family.
Wow.
But we sort of took a chance on each other, and together we've grown. Both of us have grown our businesses.
And so obviously that was a big risk. One of the questions I was going to ask was, what are some of the big risks you've taken in the business? But obviously started in the first place and traveling and trying to find them. Is there any other standout things that you can think of that are big risks
Probably
you've taken?
during COVID, when a lot of people were nervous and scaling back and not ordering, a lot of other wholesale businesses. And I thought it was more of a risk not to order. So we did put in some bigger orders, and as it turns out, most of that stock was sold before it even hit the warehouse floor because the demand was so high and the lead times really blew out. So we were ordering.
Yeah, so for other people didn't
That's
have
right.
stuff.
Whereas we ummed and ahed and stressed and had a lot of sleepless nights. But in the end, I thought, if I don't order and I don't have any product and the demand is there, then that's as much of a risk as not having anything. But it was quite scary. It paid off, but it was quite scary.
Yeah. Well, and you have a warehouse. Obviously, over time, you've grown from, working from home. Obviously, you still work from home, but you obviously had, everything at home. And then you've grown gradually to bigger and bigger places.
So
is that right?
We are in our 4th warehouse now.
Oh, wow. Okay. 4.
Yes, we started in Northcote, moved to Thornbury, moved to Ocean Grove, and now in Geelong.
And that's one of your big things with stock, right? So I guess that's one of the questions I was going to ask is, managing your stock and managing how much you have available and when you have it available. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how you work with your retail stores and stuff, and online?
Yeah, so we are quite different in the way we manage our stock, and this is probably come about because I have always worked in retail previously, so I understand the stresses and the challenges for retail stores, particularly that indent model where you may order something and it's not due in for 3 months and then it's late, so you get it in 4 months, but then you've missed, when you wanted it for Mother's Day or Valentine's Day or something, and you actually find by the time it arrives that you didn't really need that because, something else didn't sell and now you've got more of it. So I wanted to remove all of those challenges for retailers. But on the flip side, that risk sort of falls to me because we have the warehouse mostly fully stocked. So we've invested a lot of money and time and resources into offering a stock service model. So many of our customers, they're able to just do an order, $500 minimum order, and then every month they'll do another $500. They'll top up what they've sold. They might add something new in that month. The next month they'll do the same thing. So there's no real risk for them. They're just buying as they sell through. And I find that's a good way to support those retail stores. They've got a lot of overheads. They've got their bricks and mortar, they've got their staff. So it's a good way to support them with their cash flow.
Yeah, I was going to say cash flow is always tight with retail. So the fact that you can sort of go, well, this is what I've got, this is what I can spend. And yeah, like it probably ends up being the same amounts or more potentially than what you'd get if you just got one order because, as you say, there's less risk involved for them. And it just means that I think that's where you're not going to start necessarily that way. And you obviously, the stock you have now is not what you started with when you first began. Like you've worked up to this stock levels,
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Like I said in the beginning, we are not like a faddish brand that we have really, really seasonal stock. Our best sellers are products that we may have had for 5, 6, 7 years, and they will continue to be best sellers. So I feel confident in buying a lot of those and keeping them in the warehouse because I know that people will keep reordering those. So the type of product that we have, it does lend itself to that stock service model.
Yeah. And in terms of your like stockists, how many would you have? It's very broad, like how many stockists would you have?
Normally have around 150 to 200, and that, chops and changes a little bit.
And what's been your approach to grow that, to get to that point of, 150, 200? How have you actually grown your wholesale?
For a long time, we didn't really do anything. We would get approached, and
that's because you had someone really good doing your Instagram really early on.
Very early on. That definitely catapulted us.
I used to do Nareen's Instagram many, many years ago. Okay, no, sorry. What I was going to say then was you have amazing imagery, which actually helped to grow that organically in terms of you spent money and invested into your imagery to be able to have that organic marketing work in as well as editorial and stuff like that too.
That's right. Yes. So we didn't actively go and chase stores. However, you're right. A very, very big portion of our budget is spent on creating absolutely stunning imagery that we then use on our socials, but we also hand them back to our retailers so they can use them themselves. And that's a significant investment on our behalf, but I believe it really works for everybody.
Well, it increases sell-through for them if they've got good imagery to
That's
sell.
That's right. And they can use it on their website. They can use it on their socials. So yeah, so I guess other stores see those. We do trade fairs as well, and we always have done, or not always, but from very early on we did do them.
Yeah, you've done a lot of them over the years. Yeah. And that's where, even though you've got those stockists, you still sort of have to show up, right? Like it's not like you can just set and forget. Like you still got to service them. You've still got to, you're not doing every single trade show every time, but you're there regularly over the years.
That's right. And I have found that in actual fact, people are ordering less and less at the trade fair because they are ordering right throughout the year. So we may catch up with someone at a trade fair and they may not put an order in, but they've ordered the month before and I know they'll order the month after. So it's become a little bit more of a catch-up networking opportunity. In the very early days, all our ordering all our sales would come in February and August. Whereas nowadays it's much more evenly spread throughout the year, but I still think it is valuable to be seen at the trade fairs.
Well, especially when you're starting out, because it's just that opportunity to get in front of buyers that you don't have if they're not coming organically. And in terms of the stock that you have there, but how you managing that and what you do, obviously you do have to have huge orders that you do for your warehouse and stuff at times, but what does your team look like? Like who do you have helping you in your business?
So we're quite a lean team. There's not many of us, but
that's on purpose, right?
That is intentional, yes. And the reason for that, we remain very agile because we don't, there's not so many layers. And my great belief is that you just employ the best people you can and trust them to do their jobs, just give them that autonomy. So Kate is my number one, could not live without person, and she knows that. And Kate, so you know how valuable she is to me. But if I, it could not do anything for the next 3 months, Kate would be able to step in and she would be able to keep everything running as usual. And yeah, so we speak often, but if I didn't speak to her for a month or so, everything would just tick along as usual because she has a lot of autonomy. We have all worked just from home way before COVID happened. So that wasn't really an issue for us. We just kept going as we had always been going. We've got Megan in the warehouse and she's quite new, but she's doing an amazing job. There's so much to learn, shipping orders, all different couriers, shipping international orders. It's very complicated. But again, she will ring me when she needs help. But at the same time, she's very capable. And so I think we've spoken about this before, Mel. I'm definitely not a micromanager. I try and keep my head out of it and focus on the stuff I'm good at, which is the product development and the strategy. And then I let everybody else, just give them their time and the space to do what they're good at. And for me, that works best. And it allows me a lot more time and perspective because I'm not getting bogged down by all the little things and everybody doesn't have to check everything with me before they go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm just
you're not the bottleneck in stuff.
No, if you think that is the right thing to do, you're the one that's been researching and that's your area of expertise. So if you think that's the best thing, then let's do it.
Well, that's something too, though. I know that you have invested in the training of your staff as well. So,
yes.
say, for example, Kate, I know she's, worked on the marketing side or Facebook ads or whatever it might be. Like you're allowing her the time to sort of invest in that and grow in that. And so then she can manage that.
Yes. And it keeps it interesting. I mean, I don't know, Kate's probably been with me maybe 7 years. And it also keeps it interesting for her because she's upskilling all the time. I get the benefit of that, as much as she does. But it also, makes her job more interesting when she's learning things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what sort of marketing do you focus on? I know we touched on the imagery and that is a big part. How often would you do a new photo shoot?
Gosh, I'd love to do them more, but they are very expensive. So probably minimum 3 times a year we would do a photo shoot. And then we also just do those single product images. So they're available for people for their website use. But the styled, beautiful lifestyle shots, we would do those 3 times a year.
Yeah. And so, we touched on there that you have had lots of editorial over the time and that's obviously helped as well, just in terms of PR or, exposure to people.
Yeah. So we often get call outs for various magazines. And these days, influencers, bloggers, we do get lots of requests. So we are very open to giving product away if it's the right fit. We're sort of not, it doesn't really make sense just giving it away to anyone that wants it. But if it's a really good fit and the person genuinely loves our brand, then, we're very open to that as well.
Yeah. Well, it gets that because of that, as I touched on before about the Instagram that I used to manage I don't even know, probably 10 years ago, probably the first 2 years if you're starting. But you did have then lots of user-generated content, but now obviously, if you can use these sort of influencers / stylists and stuff to create that content for you, you've got like an endless pool of it really, haven't you?
We do. From. And we have all our customers, every day customers are sending us images of the vase, the plate, the bowl in their house and saying, oh my gosh, have a look at this. I love it. They're so excited to share the images of the products in their house. So we have a lot of that, which is fantastic. It's really fantastic.
Yeah. And you obviously do, not obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, that's only because I know. This is where sometimes when I talk to people who I know so well, I'm like, what does everyone else not know? You do a lot of email marketing, you do paid ads as well. Like that's part of your overall just general strategy.
We do, and that's relatively new as well for us, and that is definitely Kate's domain. So like I said, probably because I trust her implicitly and that's her role, I probably can't answer that many questions about that side of things. But I do know that we do Facebook ads and we do an email out. We try not to bombard people. We just email if there's something to say. So we might do one out to our customers, our retail customers, every couple of weeks, and the same with our wholesalers. Like it's coming up to Mother's Day, so we might just say, hey guys, just allow enough time. Most of our stores will do a top-up order leading into Mother's Day, so we'll just say, hey guys, just, allow enough time for shipping, get your orders in sooner rather than later, just little things like that.
Yeah, it's just that and even letting them know what stock levels you've got and stuff like that. Like it's just that, as you say, proactive contact as opposed to waiting for people to come to you.
Yeah, it's probably, I look at it more rather than trying to sell them more stuff. It's more just communication, just saying, hey, this is, where we're at, what we've got. And because we're not overdoing it, I think it works quite well.
Yeah, I like people to overdo it, so I won't even
No,
start.
you do, I know. Yeah.
So one of my questions is, what is the hardest part about running your business, or any barriers of hurdles you've faced?
Look, I think there's a lot of hard things, but like over and
Shipping's been a big
we've
one, right, for you, shipping?
shipping is really expensive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And customers, I mean, I know as a customer, when I'm buying something, I'm like, oh, damn, I don't want to pay shipping. But most of the time, we are actually subsidizing the shipping. Like people will pay a flat rate to us. But in a lot of cases, it is actually costing us a lot more than that to send it to them. So we are absorbing part of that. But on a more macro sense, I think since we've been in business, let's say 10 years, things have changed so much. Like the currency, we buy in US dollars, most of our product. That's pretty much the lowest it has been in the last 10 years. So everything that we are buying for the business is costing nearly double what it cost 7, 8 years ago. We have not passed those costs on, really, a little bit, but we've tried to absorb them. So that's been a challenge. COVID obviously was a challenge because we just sold so much stuff. We couldn't keep up with demand, but then the shipping was taking so long and it was really expensive. So that was challenging. Now we're sort of in that post-COVID. It's quite flat. We are maintaining our business, but it's not growing at the moment. It's pretty steady.
That's one of those hard things too, like especially if people started their business like just before COVID or during COVID and they had a big boom. They're like, what the
Yes.
heck is going on now? Because generalization, people are definitely not in the growth stage right now.
No, and every time I sort of pick up my phone, somebody else is closing down or, and that's where we are at the moment. So I think there's always a challenge. I think every day there's a challenge, but I don't mind that. I very much take a long-term picture pretty much of everything. So I just think, okay, the here and now is tricky. We'll get through this hurdle. There'll be another one, but we just have to keep looking forward. And we are really well positioned. It is pretty tough out there at the moment, but we're really well positioned. We've got such amazing stockists. We've got
that's as well. Like you've got, if you say 150 stockists. Like if someone isn't doing well, it doesn't mean everyone is. Like you've got variety of different types of stores. Like you've got florists, you've got lifestyle, you've got different things like that. So don't have all those eggs in one basket if one particular type isn't doing well either.
That's right. And we're selling more. We shipped off an order just the other day to Portland, Oregon in America. And that's the upside of the exchange rate being so bad, is that a customer in America is buying product and it's really affordable for them. And they can factor in the shipping, yes, is a little bit pricey, but overall they can afford to buy that because it's not so expensive for them. So where there's one problem, there's also an opportunity as well.
And with that, let's just touch on that actually. So that's come about through using Fair a bit.
Yes.
As well,
yep.
The wholesale platform. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a bit of setup. I think we spoke about it at the time, like really trying to set the pricing and making sure that you put your price at a level so that the shipping wasn't a detriment. So some of the costs were sort of fell into the shipping. Is that right?
Yeah. So what you can do is tweak your prices for different markets. So in Europe, the UK, you can make it a certain price. In America, you can make it a certain price. So it is a little bit more expensive. It's just not the same as buying it in the, if you just converted it to AUD. And that helps because Fair's a little bit tricky. So if someone orders $1,000 worth of product and it's got to be shipped overseas, the maximum Fair will allow you to charge for shipping is $500.
Right, yeah. And for a big or fragile /
for us,
product.
That's right. If you had jewelry, that would be a piece of cake. But for us, with bulky fragile, we need padding around it. But in saying that, we shipped, I think it was 8 boxes to Portland, and they were all glass vases. There was not a single breakage. So it's all doable. But yes, we just needed to look at the prices in a little bit more detail.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it. It just opens up opportunities, as you say. Like it's not been the only way you sell wholesale, but it's just another avenue, right, for people to find you and, get eyes on your brand.
Absolutely. You have to have as many different sales, different markets as possible, because that when one is a little bit like, we sell a lot to florists, we sell a lot to gift stores. And, one, like, for example, during COVID, the florists it was insatiable, the demand, because people were sending flowers everywhere because they couldn't see their loved ones. They would send flowers. So that just really was quite huge. So, if you've got different customers at different times of the year, you'll get sales from one when the other one is a little bit quieter.
Yeah, that's good. And one thing I wanted to ask about is, what would you change anything about your journey, do anything differently?
I don't think so. When I started, the intent was always to be able to balance family life with work life. And I think I've really nailed that.
I think you have too, and I think that's something we should touch on, because what I notice about the way you go about things, which I really love, is that you've set the business up to suit you. And of course, there's always going to be demands on your time that are unexpected, and you've got, stuff you've got to handle and manage. But you have purposely said, no, I don't want to, let's say go into a big, office, or I don't want to have to micromanage, 10 people or whatever. Like, you have set it up in a way that suits you, and you've chosen to do certain things because of that.
Absolutely. I think there's two parts to that. One is that we've intentionally not scaled the business. I feel like we're in a sweet spot now where we can make enough money to pay our bills, to do whatever we want to do in the business, and we don't have enormous amounts of stress. We could definitely make the business bigger. We could go big. We could get more staff. However, that's not really my aim. I don't want to do that. And the other thing is, I am able to really manage my day around work. So I might get up at 5 and do a couple of hours emails before the kids get up. I'll have breakfast with them, get them off to school. I might go for a walk or do Pilates, and then I'll do a little bit more work. Then I might do something else. So I weave my work in between my day. And for me, it may not suit everybody, but for me, it really works. There are instances like 2 weeks ago, I hired an Airbnb and stayed in Geelong for 8 nights because we were so busy and the warehouse just couldn't keep up. So I had to just stay down there. And I'm the person that sort of upscales when we're really busy, but for most of the time it ticks along, and I just weave my work in and out of my day. And I love that. I love that I work from home. I can do the washing, I can do the dishes, I can do whatever I want in between working. I'm pretty much always working, but never working, if that makes sense.
Well, that's good though. And that's the whole point though. Like one of the reasons a lot of people have their own business is so they can do that. But then it almost feels like they become their own corporate business, and that they run it in a way that they think that they have to as well.
Yes. And I think part of the reason I'm able to do that, I think, is that I've kept it at a manageable size, and also like we touched on before, I just trust my staff just to do their job, and I'm not overseeing, checking. So that whole layer of, them having to get things approved and whatever, that just isn't there. So it does give me a lot more space. But we're really, like, people will email. We generally email back within, 1 to 2 hours. So we're very responsive. We're really quick, and we're always ahead of our work. We don't really ever get behind. So we just try and stay on top of everything. I feel like it's working really well.
Yeah, and that's right. That's where it's good. Like, as you say, like you don't need it to be something just because someone else might have that or someone else is doing that. Like, that's not the reason for you to be growing that way or doing things just because, it might be the expected next step, for example.
Yeah, well, I think you have to go back to why some people will start a business to make millions of dollars. For me, it wasn't that. It was to create a lifestyle that I wanted. And so, everyone has a different objective with their business. So for me, that was my objective, and I feel like that's working.
Yeah. And I guess as well, like, some people are building to sell. Like, if that's your intention at the end as well, then you're doing things maybe slightly differently as well.
That's right, yes.
Okay, is there anything that something that no one knows about you?
Probably not. I'm a bit of an oversharer and I talk a lot.
I think I have said before, but I had, if those people who don't know, I had a retail store, which was, what was it? Can't even remember when we opened it actually. Maybe 2004. I don't even know, actually. Anyway, I had a retail store with my sister, and Nareen worked for me in the retail store many, many years ago when you just had young kids and you wanted to get out of the house, right?
Yes, and often I would take my baby with me to work,
You were
strapped to my chest.
You were very overqualified for the job, but for the role, but we loved you. And yeah, obviously we had a children's store, so the flexibility of bringing your child, it was all good.
It worked really well. Yes, I just needed a circuit breaker from being home with 3 young children and not much family support, so I needed a little bit of time out. So it worked beautifully, and that's how I met you.
Yeah, that was many, many, many years ago. So one thing I wanted to touch on was your copycats. You get a lot and you've had a lot. How do you deal with that and manage that?
Yes. We have one in particular iconic Australian brand that definitely takes inspiration from us, and our customers are very loyal and point this out to us all the time. Look, it is difficult, but it's inevitable, and I just think I just can't get stuck
You
on
don't waste too
that.
much energy on it really anymore. I don't know if you did, but
No. Look, the first time it happened was devastating and I was in such a state about it, but it happens so regularly now that I almost expect it. And there's not really, I don't think there's that much you can do about it. They will always slightly change their product. It will be slightly bigger, slightly smaller, slightly different color, so that they obviously know. I guess the most confusing thing to me is that many of these businesses have entire design teams. And I wonder just why they do. And I keep an eye on what other businesses are doing so that I do not do anything similar. I really try. And I mean, it's hard because, we do tableware and we do vases. So, a bowl is a bowl and a plate is a plate. So it's hard to be, incredibly innovative on that front. However, I do definitely wouldn't want to do something if somebody else is already doing it. It doesn't make sense to me.
so you have to keep evolving, right? That's the thing. You have to keep evolving because
Always developing new product. Our branding and our imagery, again, coming back to that, that's what sets us apart from many of these other copycats. Our true customers want to buy from us. They don't want to buy the copycat version. They really want to buy our brand and buy into our pieces. So I don't think we're actually losing sales, really. It's just disheartening to see other people copying your work. And it's a very common product that a lot of small designers have. And I'm not really sure what the answer is. Some people get very fired up and very angry about it, but I just feel it's better just to move on and keep developing new product.
yeah. So where do you get your inspiration from? Where do you start from when you start designing something?
So travel, definitely. In our latest collection, we've got the Athena vase, which I am in love with, and that came about from a trip to Greece last year. So that was the inspiration for that one. But definitely travel and op shops. I love going to op shops and looking at different shapes.
Yeah, vintage, yeah.
You often find some really interesting shapes and textures.
Yeah, it's where you can be like, oh, I want a bit of that and a bit of that and a bit of that together and create something new.
Or just something simple like the way that the curl on the lip of that vase is so beautiful and unusual. And, reading, looking at magazines, looking at books. Yeah, lots of different places, really. I try not to. I don't actually spend very much time on Instagram or Pinterest anymore because I feel like that sort of funnels me down a certain way.
Well, and they're already as well, they're probably already products that way, whereas as in You want to
That's
go to
right.
the inspiration of it, not necessarily a product type of thing that you're looking at.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, Pinterest, I looked at it today and it was like just giving me the same. Like it just gives you feeds you that algorithm of what you've been looking at. You're like, I want
Oh,
something new. I want to start a whole new one.
yes. Yeah, the algorithm is very strong. I remember using it when I was looking to renovate, and it was just the same images coming up. And you're right, it doesn't really challenge you with anything new.
Yeah. What are some other things that you would say to someone starting out? Like, what should they invest in if they're starting their brand?
I think in some ways it's harder starting. I don't know if you want to hear that, but I think
Yeah.
it's harder to start a business today than what it was
Yeah.
when I started. I think you have to have something, something unique, something special. It doesn't have to be like I said. It could be a plate, a bowl, something that's ubiquitous, but you've got to have your own take on that.
Yeah, definitely your own take on
Beautiful,
things. Yeah.
yeah. Beautiful imagery is important, but it's very expensive. If you can learn how to do that yourself, that would be amazing.
Yeah, well, that's even if you did a professional one occasionally, but you fill it in with other imagery that you've created, can be really great as well.
Yes, and I do think that trade fairs like Life in Style, First in Style, they are really important launching pad for so many businesses, because I don't think there's any other way that you could get your product in front of genuine, ready to buy people. It really is. It is a big investment to do a trade fair. I still find I gasp sometimes. Go, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. But then 2 or 3 sales later, you've made up for that.
Yeah, and how long have you had some of those stores as well?
Oh yes, yeah, years. So I do think that if you are starting out, get some beautiful imagery, some postcards, have a lovely, unique, interesting product, and do the trade fairs, and that will. And you really just need to get started. You have 3 or 4 stores, and then other stores see that, and then it's like a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I always call it the snowball. So it sort of builds slowly, but then, yeah. And just on that, I wanted to touch on, because I know it comes up a little bit for people in terms of, well, why would I do wholesale when it's, I get half the price of what a retail customer is? But it's about that long term, right? Like you don't have to. I mean, you obviously want to keep searching and getting new stores, but you don't need to like you do for retail customers.
Oh, I love wholesale. Wholesale is for me, the retail is just the cream on top. It's really our business, I would say, is a wholesale business, and the retail is just a little bit extra. Really, we were quite late to the party offering a retail a way to purchase, and that was only because we kept getting so many emails saying, "Oh, I live so and so, and there's no store around me, and I really want to buy this product." And eventually, it became so time consuming answering all those emails. We just went, "Oh gosh, we just need to make something so people can jump on and buy it." And that's how the retail started. But wholesale is so great. It's just you're selling things in bulk, so it's really easy to dispatch. You've got your whole collection on offer, so people can see everything. They're so loyal. It's very unusual to find a wholesale customer that doesn't order frequently, and they're different scales. Like some are, maybe $1,000 a year, but others are tens of thousands of dollars every year.
That's
So,
right. You've got that range, haven't you? Because everyone is
yes,
different. Yeah.
and they introduce, wholesalers introduce people to your product. They go into the store and they see it. So I think that you really can't underestimate how important your wholesale customers are. They're so valuable to your business.
Yeah. And so how do you support them? I think you said you really make sure that you are giving them time, you are like to order and not putting too much pressure on the bigger orders. You're having stock ready for them.
Yeah, so I think not doing indent orders, I think, and I really believe that helps them so much, not by having to think ahead of what they might need in 3-4 months' time.
You do pre-orders though sometimes, don't you?
Occasionally, but that would only be when the product's due in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So it's very close to being in stock. And that's really just to let people, like we did that our product wasn't quite ready for when the trade fairs were in February this year. So we did a pre-order just so that when people were shopping at the trade fairs and they knew what was on offer, they knew what we had coming. So they could go, oh, okay, that's on the way. But really, yeah, it's just whatever's in stock. And we do all the heavy lifting for the imagery. So I feel like that's a really huge support to retailers. We try, shipping is unfortunately expensive for our product, but we have not increased the shipping rates in 5 years, I don't think. Even though it has increased for us, we've not put that forward. We try very hard not to take on another store in that area. So there might be, occasionally there might be a florist who just does vases and then a giftware store that just does, tableware, and they complement each other. But we look very, very carefully at who our stockists are.
Another thing that I just thought of then is that you're not going on sale all the time either or doing huge promotions. Like, of course you are doing them occasionally, but you're not undercutting your wholesalers all the time.
No. So and that's also quite recent that we've started to partake in the Black Friday sale. So we just try and do 2 a year, like the Afterpay one, and I think there's one in March and one in November. And we really don't try and go on sale because we don't want to undersell for our wholesalers, but also we don't want to condition our retail customers because our product, we don't have huge margins on them. But we do find we recently did the Afterpay sale, but about 50% of customers were first-time customers to the brand. So in a way, it's a good way for those people to get a taste of your brand and they like it, and then they go on to make further purchases. So
they might even go and buy it into store where it's near them. So it increases the wholesalers' sales too, potentially.
That's right. I'm sure that they will. So I see it really as, because we do it quite infrequently, it's really a way of, hopefully, people that have been wanting to get a little taste of our brand, see what it's like. That's their first step. They've got it on sale and then they love it. And so then they will make repeat purchases either in-store or directly with us.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Well, thank you so much, Nareen. I think you've shared so much valuable information today. I have loved chatting to you, as we do regularly. If there's anything that we haven't talked about that others want to hear, they can definitely ask some questions or DMs afterwards and we can discuss it further. But this may be only the first time you come on the show. We might be back again and discussing something else at a later stage. Who knows?
Sounds great, Melly.
Thank you so much. And everyone can find you at Marmoset Found, and that is on Instagram, obviously, on the website. And if they want to become a stockist and they want to, see if they can get it in their store as well, they should definitely contact through the website, right?
Absolutely. Yes, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, amazing. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, see you soon. Thanks, Melly. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Lotco Business Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you subscribe to receive future episodes as they are released. And I'd be so, so grateful for a review on Apple Podcast. If you would like a copy of the show notes or any of the links mentioned today, please jump onto my website at thelotco.com.au/podcast. Have an amazing week and I look forward to chatting to you again soon.